Okay, so we are beginning this unit with these questions, these essential questions. These are our unit targets. Please write them down. By the end of this unit, I hope you will be able to answer all of these questions. It will also make good test questions. Okay, so do you have them written? Or still typing? Okay, that's fine. Hopefully my recording is right. Anything else? Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Sandra. She reminded me.
Thanks, Sandra. Yeah.
I don't know where she's at. Okay. All right, so our questions are these. How can American citizens participate in the American political process? You all ought to know this answer. How do Americans, what's one way Americans can participate in the political process?
They vote.
You betcha.
They bet you they vote.
You bet. So we will, that's only part of the answer, but that is a big part of that answer. All right, number 2, is civic participation important? And I'll give you a hint. The answer is yeah. But we will talk about why. Okay. All right. And how is the government affected by the rule of law? How many of you know what the rule of law is? Well, guess what? I'm going to teach you.
That's right.
That's my job.
That's right.
All right. Okay. How are rules or laws that govern the election process beneficial to citizens of America? Citizens, that's you.
You betcha.
You bet. And we are going to learn about this process. Okay. Why is being an informed voter important to society?
So you know who you're voting for and why.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. And how do political parties, the media, and special interest groups influence the way Americans vote? And we will definitely spend a little bit of time on that. Okay. With that in mind, we are going to move forward, and as soon as I get my cursor, there it is, we will start. There we go. All right, now, that was unit targets. Those are what the overarching, they're what we are shooting for the whole. Now, we're going to have daily targets, and today's targets are going to focus, and you do not need to write this portion, okay? You don't need to write this. You don't even have to write that if you don't want to, but you do need to write this. So, but we're going to focus on the very first question in the unit targets, and that is how American citizens participate in the political process. We're going to talk about more than that, but first we're going to try to understand the 5 key compromises that help establish the Constitution. We're going to see about particular one of those compromises known as the Great Compromise, and how it established how people and states would be represented in Congress. Yeah. Yeah. Just, well, right after the regular targets, or the unit targets. Just put it right underneath there. And we're going to look at the qualifications for being in a congressional office. And finally, we're going to look at the difference between a senator and a representative. How exciting! Oh my gosh! You're going to go home and say, Mom, Pa, Grandma, Grandpa, Aunt, Uncle, we learned something today in this class.
I always learn something. I always learn that I'm bad at history.
But you're getting better because
I'm in Miss Tinsman's class.
you got that right, son.
That's for sure.
I like the name. They're here for a reason, not just cost. Okay. Mason, have you had these, did you get this typed up already? Good. Okay, I'm gonna move forward. So these are our targets for today. I don't know that we'll get all, we should, yeah, we might not get to that one, but we should get to the rest. All right. If last class was any, yesterday's class was any. Okay. Now, this is not, I believe, in the notes. I didn't note preamble, did I? Or did I? Oh, okay. Okay. It was the thing before I did. Okay. So, to start off the Constitution, they wrote the preamble. And the preamble had two questions in it, okay? And these are the two. And then these are kind of the answer. So I'll let you type and then we'll talk about it. By the way, feel free in your notes to highlight, change colors, do stuff that will help you remember. Okay? Can change the font, except that you need to keep the font legible. Some of that font is crazy. I want to be able to read it. I don't want to have to try and figure it out. All right, I'm not hearing any typing, so I think we must be on an okay shape here. Okay, so why did they write it? Okay, the goal was to form a more perfect union. Okay, so did they succeed? Yeah, they did. Of course, that's our opinion, Americans' opinion. But if you think about it, what kind of governments existed prior to this? Monarchies, right, monarchies. Monarchies were all about who was in charge. Who was in charge? A king. Did it matter what us, the regular people? Not a bit. Now, if you had a really good king, that was important, but you were just as likely to have a bad king. And so this Well, the idea was to form a better, more perfect.
But most
Yeah.
kings liked or disliked.
Wow. Some were absolutely loved. And if you look at history, a lot of times what history does is it talks about what were they able to accomplish. Like, for example, Peter the Great in Russia, considered an exceptional ruler, but he did not treat the people well. But he brought that country that had been so incredibly backwards, pulled it kicking and screaming into the present then, their present. And in the process, there are a lot of bad people, a lot of bad things happen.
How many kings are there nowadays? Like, there's not very many, is there?
Oh, there's more than you think. If you just think of the title king, you might not think that many, but you got to think there's all kinds of different titles for different people. A prince could be a leader of a country. So, but yeah, there's more than you think. Now, for example, England, do they have a queen? Yeah. Does she have power like past queens or kings? No, but she is incredibly influential. She has, it isn't necessarily where she is, she can, lop off your head, but she has a lot of influence in the government, more than a lot of people recognize. And she's very active in the government. She is a very active monarch. Other monarchs are, they're dictators, like the North Korean guy. He is not considered a king, but he is an absolute monarch. Okay. He doesn't call himself a king. So I mean,
Would he be a dictator?
oh yeah, definitely. But he doesn't say, that's a term that we use for him. He does not call himself a dictator. Okay. So you have to think about it in those terms. How do you define him rather than what's his title? Okay. So yeah, there's a lot more than you think there are. There aren't that many true. I shouldn't even say we're not a true democracy. We're a republic, and we've already talked a bit about that. We'll talk more about that. But where people have a major say in the government, that's not that many. Yeah, they may say they are a democracy, but if you dig down deep, maybe not so much. So a truer democracies such as ours, Canada, England, France.
Yeah, I feel like we don't hear about that stuff like that very much.
Do what?
I feel like we don't hear about them very much.
No.
Like other.
Not necessarily. Wait, and then you gotta. The media is what tells us.
Yeah.
And where is the media gonna go? Are they gonna go to countries that are settled and there isn't any upheaval? No, they're gonna talk about places where there are terrible things happen. Yeah. So, but they are out there definitely.
That's why we watch it. Like today and age, like we like to see that stuff.
Sure. I mean, unfortunately we do. Unfortunately we do. Okay, so their goal was to make a more perfect union, and the goals they set for themselves were these: establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. Okay? What do you think of those goals? In fact, this was your journal, wasn't it, basically? All right, so let's talk about what you wrote a little bit. Okay, so, somebody got courage and want to talk to us about what did you write?
All right, here's what I put.
Okay.
I put where's the question? Let me find it real quick. You can go to something.
Okay, anybody else want to talk about what they wrote? This is just in general. You don't have to give me verbatim. In general, what did you think was important here in a journal? Eli.
Domestic tranquility.
Okay.
That like peace at home that would be my biggest thing.
All right.
Okay, so peace at home.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so you value that. Okay, John, were you starting to say something?
I was just like,
Oh, okay. All right, I didn't want to ignore. Okay, gotcha. Okay, all right. So, go ahead then, Peyton.
Alright, I put, establish justice, because, like, I believe that a big part of it is, like, to allow fairness and, like, equalization for everybody.
Okay. Okay, so what you're saying, fairness, equality. Okay. Caleb.
I'd like to provide for common defense.
Okay. Let me get this to go. Why is that important to you?
Because if you don't have what it's like what you're trying to promote.
So I didn't hear quite everything you said. So to
If you can't defend what you're doing, then there's no point in trying to build up.
okay. Okay, so defend what you're doing. Okay. Do we have to do that? Is that what we do? Do we have to defend it in our own nation?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people just get it wrong.
Okay. But, and I think you're right, so let me play with this, okay? So, why do we need a military? For outside issues. Okay. For outside issues, yeah. We're also going to see that there sometimes we need them for inside issues. For example, natural disasters are one. And we'll talk about that as we get further into the Constitution. All right, did anybody else choose something different? I want to talk about something different. Okay, so this statement is preamble. It is, it is incredibly powerful. Establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for common defense, promote general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. Who's that for? Who is this for? For the people. For the people. You know, I guess as I grow older, this stuff just absolutely makes me in awe of these guys. Because it just seems that, you know, you've heard the statement, I don't want to recreate the wheel. What does that mean?
You don't want to make something that's already been done.
But here these guys were doing something that had never been done. Now, there had been democracies before, but never quite like this. And never in this style. So what these guys were doing, and you're going to hear, and it kind of infuriates me because it's like they only want to see one side. You're going to hear a lot of people say a lot of crappy things about, you know, Washington or Jefferson and on and on. And you know what? They were men. They were not perfect. They made some really stupid mistakes. Actually, Washington was pretty near perfect, really, when you think about it. But he was. But some of the other guys weren't. But what they did, what they wrote, is amazing. And hopefully, I can get you guys to see that. Are we perfect today? No, we got a long way to go. And do we make stupid mistakes?
Yes.
You bet. But at the core, this document is pretty darn good. Is it perfect? No. But it's pretty good. It really is. And again, remember, it was something that did not exist in the whole entire world. Nobody had anything like this. Nobody cared in terms of government about the people. Can you see I'm a little passionate about this?
Yep.
I hope so. I hope you guys get some of this passion, because it's important. Too many people are, would rather just be critical and, just we'll leave it at that. Want to be critical instead of understanding what's possible. All right, we did that. Okay, moving on. All right, so I want a little prior knowledge here. This is an easy peasy. First of all, tell me, what is Article 1 about? So what do you know? You know one thing for sure. It's what? It's the legislative. It's all about the legislative, okay? Yeah, we know one thing. Okay, what about Article 2? What do you know? Yeah. Article 1 is legislative, and Article 2 is?
Judicial.
No.
Executive.
Executive.
Number 3.
It's what? Judicial. But we're not going to talk about 3, and that's a good point. I want to make sure we're clear on that. We're only going to focus on Article 1 and 2 because they discuss election or how we select. Article 3 in the Constitution talks about the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court is not elected. And so I'm not including that part in what we're working on right now. They are appointed. The Supreme Court is. Now, further down the line, those courts are elected. We'll talk about that as we move forward. Excuse me, I'm sorry. All right. So let's start with this. 5 key compromises. Before the Federal Constitution was finished, and in some cases even started, there were arguments and disagreements about how to do this. These guys didn't arrive finished. Okay? Whenever you get with a group of people, especially people from different backgrounds, do they agree? Not usually. No, they do not. They usually have some sort of disagreement or difficulty in coming to agreements. Okay, so we're going to look at these 5. So much of negotiating and compromise had to take place before the Constitution was finally finished. So these 5, and I want you to note these, we are going to talk about all of them to a small degree. I just want you to be aware that these existed. The ones in red are the 2 that we're going to talk about during this particular unit. Have your brains, come on. Okay, I don't hear anybody typing, so my assumption is you got it. Okay, so we've got these 5. We're going to begin with the Great Compromise. I just need you to have a general idea about the Great Compromise. No, you don't need to write all that. Phew, that's as much for me as for you, so I remember how this goes here. All right, so as I said, these guys arrived to, first of all, they were going to fix the Arts Confederation, and then they pretty quickly recognized they couldn't fix it. It was done. It was toast. So they instead began to think about writing a whole new document. But the issue started off right away. How are people going to be represented? Well, it became greater than just the people being represented, but also how the states would be represented. And so that caused a lot of conflict. And there were different people who put in different plans, and I know, because the last class told me, that you guys know about all these different Virginia plans and the New Jersey plans and all these different plans. Guess what? I don't want you don't have to remember that for me, okay? So, but you do need to remember this. They had to come up with an option, and so a guy by the name of Roger Sherman, he was from Connecticut. Roger came up with a pretty good, solid plan, and when it was all said and done, they all felt like it worked. So instead of trying to figure out some sort of ratio and such, they decided they would do two things. First, they would create Congress, and second, that would be divided into two parts. Okay? And that was known as a bicameral Congress. So, this great compromise, without it, we wouldn't have, first of all, a constitution. So these are the areas we're going to focus on. I just put that in there. It's okay. All right. So, Article 1 is about the legislative branch. Section 1, okay? So, Section 1 then has to do with this, the Great Compromise we just talked about, all right? What is the job of Congress? So, let me talk just a moment about the notes here. What I try to do is, there is so much information. I'm trying to cut it down to the bare minimum, what you need to know. And so what I did is I didn't write out long sentences, I just gave you brief bullet points. All right, so my expectation is, first of all, you're learning, you're listening. And second of all, you can put in this information. So if I have it up here, especially if it's on like this notebook paper, you need to write it down. Okay, it needs to be written down. Now, I tried to keep it simple and to the point. So for Section 1, you're talking about from here to here. This is Section 2 and down. So so you want to get this information in there. But I have divided where you have Section 2, right? You have a Section 2. Then this information in here goes to Section 2. Okay? If you're not sure you're getting it in the right place, check with me. Okay, most of you are done. I'm gonna continue on here. Okay, so section 1, we know the job of Congress is to legislate, to make the laws. Legislate is just another word for saying to make the law. Okay, so the Great Compromise then said, how are they going to do this? That was its job, is to say how they were going to accomplish this task, to legislate. And by the way, let me say this, and it's really a good idea when you're doing notes like these, if what we're talking about helps you understand, you may add notes to help you. It doesn't have to be verbatim this. You need this or this, but you can add information as you go if it helps you to understand, okay? Those are the best kind of notes. They're also the notes that help make it more interesting if you're doing stuff like this. All right, so Great Compromise comes up with the idea we have two houses known as a bicameral Congress, and I will expect you to know that. I have a great way to remember a bicameral. You want to hear it?
Let's hear it.
Okay. Camels. Get it? Camels. They often have two what? Humps. Get it? That's how you remember. Bicameral. It's a camel with two humps. I never get the kind of reaction I hope for. Okay. So it's divided then into the Senate, and there's 2 people per state, total of 100 senators. Okay? That's it. You can't have any more unless you get a new state. And if we get a new state, we add how many people to that?
6.
If there's only 2 senators per state, we get a new state, how many senators will be added? 2. All right. Now, House of Representatives, however, they have 435. If I figure out who snaps the gum, we're going to have a moment. All right, House of Representatives, 435 representatives total. That will never get any bigger. If we get a new state, it will still be 435 representatives. Can you tell me why? I can tell you why. You want to know why? Sure, because that's how many seats they have. That's all, they only have 435 seats. It's true. They're at capacity. They cannot add any more unless they build a new building, and trust me, that's not going to happen. So, as long as they are in that particular building, they have that many places, and that's it. So, 435. So, if we get a new state, then we will have to again adjust the representation accordingly. And we're going to talk about how that happens, that representation. All right, section 2. They now are going to focus on the House of Representatives. So we're just talking the House. This one right here. They are directly elected every 2 years. Okay? So, and that when I say directly elected, that means we, the people, choose. The president doesn't choose. The Senate doesn't choose. We choose. Okay? All right. Now, you have to be 25 years old, 7 years a citizen and a resident of the state. Now, 25. How many years until you're 25? How many? Less than 10. You could literally be, somebody here could literally be, in less than 10 years, a representative to the National Congress. Sure. And there are some people who achieve that at 25.
Do you ever know anybody that's really nice?
I haven't, but I know there have been. Yeah. Okay. You have to be 7 years a citizen. Does that mean you have to be born in the United States? No. No. You just have to be a citizen. You could be. You generally don't arrive a citizen if you're born in another country. So you'll probably most likely have been here longer than 7 years in order to get your citizenship. But to be a citizen, you have to be here 7 years. And I'm pretty sure Mr. Birdsall goes over how to be a citizen, doesn't he? Didn't he in American history? He used to do that. I guess he doesn't anymore. You have to go through some classes and take a test. And once you've done that, then you can and pass. Then you can be sworn in. You literally have to swear that your allegiance to the United States. Okay? And then you must be a resident, meaning you live in the state that you are represented. So I think it depends on the state as what qualifies as a residence. It could be as little as 6 months, or it could be as much as some years, depending on the state. But you must be a resident, okay? Now, in Ohio, as in all states, they are divided into districts. And these districts then, we elect somebody, each district will elect somebody then to go to Congress. Do you know what our district number is? By chance? There are 16 districts in Ohio, and we are number 8. And do you need to know this? Uh-huh. Because I will ask this question on the test. You need to know your district. Now, do you happen to know who represents us? He's new. He just served his first 2 years. He's about ready to be. We're going to this next election. He's up for election. So, do you happen to know who this is?
Warren.
Warren. Can you see it? Warren Davidson. Very good. Warren Davidson. He is our representative, and I see that he is on the ballot again. So his first 2 years are up. So he is now. They call them their first term. They are called freshmen. When they first arrive, they are known as freshmen. After that, after they complete their first term and then are reelected, then they're no longer considered a freshman. But they're not a sophomore. They just now are no longer freshmen. All right, so we have this, correct? Okay. Does this pretty much make sense? Yes. What is it? The 26th. Yep, I'm going on though. Okay. Next one. Now, Section 3 is all about the Senate. So we have Section 2, House of Representatives, Section 3, Senate. Come on, guys. Get stuck up here. All right, if you're still typing, go continue. I'm gonna go ahead and start talking now about this. So, we already know it's a bicameral Congress. This is the other house, the Senate. They are directly elected for a total of 6 years. So all senators serve for 6, where a representative, House of Representative, they only serve for 2 years. These guys serve for 6, a total of 6. Now, underneath there, I wrote a third stands for election every 2 years. Now, let me explain that. When the Constitution was first written, they had to adjust for this 6-year term, because what they didn't want to do was at every 6 years, the whole group of senators would be reelected. That becomes a kind of a mess, and they recognized that ahead of time. They knew that that wasn't going to work. So what they decided to do was say, okay, a third will be elected, re-elected, or have the opportunity to be re-elected after 2 years, and then another third will have to wait 4 years, and then another third will go the full 6. And from then on, all these groups will serve 6 years. Okay? It will be staggered, in other words. Right? Does that make sense? They staggered them. And now, once that happened, that very first 6 years, then it's never changed. And so it worked, it's this stagger. Every 2 years, they will be. But your senator actually serves a full 6 years. Okay. So our senators, I believe, were reelected when Trump was the same year that Trump got president. So they have 4 more years to go. So there are 2 per state. We've already established that. They have to be 30 years old. So the qualification is a little bit higher. The expectation is a little more for in the Senate. Okay? Must be 9 years a citizen. And again, they have to be resident of the state. All right. So the reason they asked for a little higher expectation, the Senate is considered the upper house, meaning it has some additional power than the House of Representatives. So this is the House of Representatives. You can call it the lower house. The Senate is the upper house. If that helps you to remember the age, and because I will ask this of you to know this. Okay. Now, who are our senators?
Sherrod Brown and Rob Portman.
Sherrod Brown and Rob Portman. Yeah. Sherrod Brown and Rob Portman. Very good. Okay. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Just note a lot of senators, and just write their names. Okay, so the next thing on your sheet, and I've got one typing yet, so give me a sec here, is going to be this. How is the Senate different from a member of the House of Representatives? I do want you to note these. And when you finish this, I don't think for a while. Let me just check real quick. But you can go ahead and type this up, and I will tell you if this is where we're stopping or not. Now, hold on. There we go. Right? Yeah. Okay, before you close, save this to your government folder. Don't save it anywhere else. Don't put it on your on the computer itself. Save it to your government folder. Are you hearing me? Guys, Pachetta. Mason, come on. Save it to your government folder. You do not have to upload it. Not at this point. Just save it. Do not close out either yet. We're going to discuss this for a few minutes.
So are you like big into like when it gets down like close to like voting time, do you like big into like reading everything about it and stuff?
I like to try to know as much as I can. We're going to do that. We're going to spend some time finding out. I'm going to have the ballot for Preble County, and you'll have an opportunity to see the ballot, and we'll talk about the issues. There's one in particular that's very controversial. Do you happen to know which one it is? There's one ballot issue. And we'll talk about the people, but there also is an issue. So I believe is issue 1. I haven't seen the ballot yet. I have to pick it up today. So issue 1, which has to do with pharmaceuticals, and we will talk about that.
So when is it? November 9th?
6th.
6th?
November 6th. All right. So the next presidential election, you guys will be old enough because you're 16, 17, right, this year? Okay. So next presidential election, as long as your birthday is before November, the first Tuesday, first week, full week of Tuesday, you will be able to vote.
My birthday is May 15th.
May 15th. Are you 16 or 17 now? 16, 17, 20. You might not make it. Yeah, I'm thinking
Darn.
16, 17, and then, yeah, you'll be 17. I'm trying to, my brain is not rolling over. All right, let's look at this. So, how is a senator different from the House of Representatives? First of all, we already know that, 6 years. That's the first thing. They are in for 6 years. And we know staggered elections. Second thing is 1 vote per senator. So there isn't any more than, I guess what I'm trying to say is if for the state, you have basically 2 votes, 1 vote per senator. Okay, 2 senators per state, we know that. Originally, senators were chosen by the state legislators. Now we directly vote for them. Today, chosen, and we said that, and this is as a result of the 17th Amendment. Originally, the House of Representatives chose the senators. Now the people do, as of 1913. Okay, and then it is not possible for both senators from one state to be up for re-election at the same time. So that's good. That means that not only is the election staggered, but it also means that we always have representation. There's always somebody standing for representation. All right, you can go ahead and save that. Save it to your government folder. And we are done for today and for the week.
A great weekend this time.
Sorry?
Great weekend.
You betcha.
Drop the mic.
Yeah.
You need to surround this right here.
Oh.